In a previous video, we explored how it was possible to get the Moonlight Greatsword in Dark Souls 1 in 0 bosses. But what about Dark Souls 2? Surely it can't be as broken. We're going to start this run off like any other, running to the character creator. Starting class doesn't matter too much, I'm going with the Explorer for the Witching Urns however. The part that will be important is choosing the bonfire aesthetic as your starting gift. After finishing creating your beautiful character, it's time to actually get started with the run. The first thing we're going to do is take out the nearby ogre. This will give us 1,000 souls along with the stone ring. Next, light the bonfire and destroy the nearby cart for a torch. Torches are going to play an important role in this run. When you arrive in Majula, drop off the ledge to get the binoculars. We're doing this run on current patch Scholar of the First Sin, so no bino boosting unfortunately, but these will come in handy later nonetheless. Knock the rock into the well for an Estus Flask shard, then speak to the Emerald Herald to both get the Estus Flask and upgrade it. Along the path to the Forest of Fallen Giants, you can drop down to get a human effigy, then jump across the gap for a homeward bone. We're going to run past all of the enemies we encounter, taking a detour at this section to pick up the buckler. With the buckler acquired, head up the ladder, through the door, and finally to the bonfire. After resting at the bonfire, speak to Melentia to buy a single firebomb. If we position ourselves over this line on the floor, angle the camera all the way down, and throw a firebomb, we'll hit the explosive barrels on the other side and open the shortcut early. With that done, we're going to jump onto this railing, then jump by the ladder to trigger the pursuer to drop in. Then we just need to wait until he leaves to climb up safely. With the pursuer out of our way, we can climb up to get another Estus shard, along with a human effigy, life gems, and another torch. Before we return to Majula, there's one more stop to make. Head over and speak to Kale until he gives you the house key. After that, we can use the homeward bone we picked up earlier to return to the bonfire. Back in Majula, head into the house and down to the basement. Once there, we can grab another Estus shard, take out the skeleton for another human effigy, and loot the chest for a soul vessel. It's time to head over to Hyde's Tower of Flame. Before we head there, grab the homeward bones next to the Company of Champions tablet. We need to get 25,000 souls to get this run started. To do this, I chose to farm the Old Knight and 2 Hyde Knights at the start of the area. This will net us 1,600 souls per run with a bonfire nearby, so while not super fast, it's not the worst grind. The strategy here is pretty simple. Bait the Old Knight into sending himself off the ledge, and just parry and riposte the 2 Hyde Knights. Daggers have very high critical damage, so it only takes 2 riposts to take them down. Admittedly, my Dark Souls 2 knowledge is lacking compared to my Dark Souls 1 knowledge, so it's completely possible that there's a more efficient way to farm souls without killing bosses. After killing these enemies 12 times, they'll stop spawning due to Dark Souls 2's enemy spawn mechanics. At that point, we can join the Company of Champions to keep them spawning at the cost of making the enemies have more health and deal more damage. The enemies still aren't too bad with the damage increase. The bigger threat is gravity. Once you've got the 25,000 souls, head back to Majula. Things are about to get more interesting. First, we need to spend 15,000 souls in Malin's shop. Which items you buy doesn't matter. This will advance his quest and make him sell more items. You can also speak to Shalquar to leave the Company of Champions now. No need to leave the enemies buffed. Now head to the bonfire, and it's time to burn the bonfire ascetic we started with. This will put Majula into its new game plus state, and Malin will now sell even more items. Importantly, he'll now sell the moon butterfly skirt, which is key to all of this, so head over and buy it. Now, if you're not familiar with glitches in this game, you may be wondering why this skirt is so important. Well, it lets us do this. Introducing Parry Walk. Parry Walk is performed by performing a jump at the same time you riposte an enemy, while being aligned with the enemy in a certain way, usually directly diagonally. The skirt allows us to jump from a standstill, and makes this glitch viable without lowering the game's frame rate. This will lock us to our current height for 28 seconds, and allow us to break the game. We're going to take advantage of this to get to the place unbeknownst bonfire without the King's Ring. After lighting the bonfire, head down and grab the fragrant branch of Yor. We're going to put the branch to use immediately to free Rosabeth so we can access the Shaded Woods. Make your way to the Ruined Fork Road bonfire, running past all of the enemies along the way. We need to head to Freja to get the Moonlight Greatsword, but we're severely underpowered at the moment. Our goal for now is to unlock a better soul farming method, and step 1 will be getting into Aldia's Keep. This is another area that normally requires the King's Ring to enter. Fortunately for us, we have the power of flight on our side. Set up Parry Walk on the knight guarding the door, then start running at the wall and moving slightly to the left. As long as you don't move too far to the left, you'll end up here. Once here, just continue running straight at the wall, and you'll eventually build up enough speed to get over. Once you're over the wall, wait for the effects of Parry Walk to wear off, then light the bonfire. Continue through Aldia's Keep normally, stopping to get the bonfire behind the illusory wall along the way. Remember how I said torches would be important? This is one of those times, so light your torch at the bonfire before continuing. Continue down the hallway and light this standing torch along the way. This will cause a red phantom NPC to spawn, and he's going to help us get past the guardian dragon. Make sure to avoid the ogres behind the first and third doors, and make your way outside. If you run up against the fog gate, the ogres will leave you alone while the red phantom continues chasing you. This is perfect, as we need him to parry walk. The parry timing on him is kinda hard, so it might take a couple tries. Fortunately, he stays spawned forever after lighting the torch, so we can just keep trying until we get it. After landing it, it's just a short jog around the big bird cage to the other side. You'll need to wait a few seconds for Parry Walk to wear off, then head up the elevator. With this, we've arrived at the Dragon Eyrie, and can speak to the Emerald Herald to get the Infinite Homeward Bone. Light the second bonfire, then head all the way to the Ancient Dragon, who will give us the Ashen Mist Heart. We can now access the Memory of Jay, and along with it, a much better soul farm. This is a pretty common place to farm souls in a normal run, by picking up the bonfire ascetic and killing the Giant Lord repeatedly. But it turns out it's actually a pretty good soul farm even without killing the giant. After grabbing the ascetic, run through and let the head of the statue take out most of the enemies. You can get up to 9,200 souls per run if everything dies, but that usually doesn't happen. You'll want to repeat running through here until you've got around 25,000 souls. We're going to invest these souls to make the farm even better. From Melentia, buy Leningrass Key, all of her life gems, and a bright bug. Then speak to her to get the covetous Silver Serpent Ring +1. Return to Majula and unlock Leningrass Workshop, then rest at the bonfire so he moves inside it. From Leningrass, buy a rapier, 6 Titanite shards, and upgrade the rapier to +3. Head over to the Emerald Herald, and we can get the stats for the rapier and buckler. If you have extra souls, throw them into Vigor. Unfortunately for Maulin, he's outlived his usefulness, and his outfit gives a significant buff to souls gained. Take him out. With the incredible reach of the rapier, it shouldn't be too hard. With our new outfit and ring, we'll get over a 40% increase to souls gained, which will speed up this farm significantly. How much you farm here will really be up to you. Unlike other areas in the game, the enemies here never stop spawning. Of course, the more souls you get, the easier things will be. My goal here was about 230,000. We're now done with all of the farming, and it's time to do some upgrading. First, get the branch from Melentia. Next, get the Silver Cat Ring from Shalquar, then head over to the Emerald Herald to level up. With our souls, we can get 20 Vigor, Endurance, and Dexterity, along with 31 Adaptability for those sweet iframes. Our next stop is the Gutter, which we can now access thanks to the Silver Cat Ring. Just be careful on the way down. When you get to the bottom, take out the exploding mummies, then head in the opposite direction they came from to take out the knight, and grab the sublime bone dust. Continue through the gutter to grab the Estus shard, then warp out. Return to Hides, taking out the Greatsword Knight, and the sword and shield wielding knight on the way to the Dragon Slayer. From there, we can set up parry walk on the nearby Hide Knight to completely bypass the Dragon Slayer. Continue down this path, take out the knight, and loot the chest for another bone dust. Use the branch we bought from Melentia to free this hollow, then head up and grab the Estus shard. Our Estus flask is now in a pretty good state, but our rapier could be better. To upgrade it, we'll want to go to the Lost Bastille, but the last giant and the pursuer are preventing us from doing so. Fortunately, with the power of parry walk, anything is possible. First, we'll want to take out the enemies close to this ladder. Once they're dealt with, clear the hollow with the halberd into the bonfire room, and use him to set up parry walk. We can then build up speed by running into the ladder. Once you have enough speed, get on it, and you'll warp out of bounds. Then you just need to position yourself correctly to fall into the nearby room, which you can't see. After doing some testing to figure out where the room is, this trick isn't too hard. It's just a bit forward and to the right of where you get warped by the ladder. Once in the room, take out the two nearby enemies and head up top. We'll want to take out the archer, then use the other enemy to set up parry walk. With parry walk active, we can just walk around all of the collision and bypass the pursuer. Now in the Lost Bastille, make sure to grab the Dull Ember. Grab the large Titanite shard from above Lucatiel, then push the explosive barrel down the stairs to get to the bonfire. Loot 2 more large shards from one of the chests here, then buy 3 more from McDuff and upgrade the rapier to +6. Why stop there when we can go even further? Set up parry walk on one of the poop-walking falconers, then proceed to run out of bounds and bypass the Shrine of Winter, allowing us direct access to Drangleic Castle. Along the way, take out the Crystal Lizard for 3 chunks and a slab. Proceed inside the castle and down to the bonfire. Afterwards, head back up and take out the knight guarding the chest with the bone dust in it. Return to Majula and upgrade the rapier to +8. Now it's time for the hardest trick in this run, Nausicaa Skip. First unlock the shortcut leading to the last giant, then proceed down the elevator. The first step to this trick is storing a boss fight. We can do this by using parry walk to clip enough into a boss room to touch the boss fight trigger without fully entering the room. The most consistent way I've found to do this is to walk against the rock wall until you end up against the fog gate, then line up the camera and turn using the binoculars. It's still not 100% consistent, however. It may take a handful of tries, but when you get it right, it'll look something like this. Storing a boss fight does a couple things. For one, all of the enemies in the area the boss fight takes place in will deload. In case you're wondering, resting at a bonfire will reload all of the enemies, so don't do that. The other thing it does is glitch out other boss fights when you enter them, stopping them from starting properly. This is what we need it for. Unfortunately, going through any sort of load screen will lose the stored boss fight, so we'll have to walk all the way to where we're going. When we leave the area the boss is in, its health bar will instantly drain to 0. Don't worry, we haven't actually killed the boss, we just got so far away that the game deloaded it. The health bar draining also indicates the end of the area where enemies will be despawned, so it's safe to grab any bonfires going forward, as the enemies will be there regardless. Go all the way to the ruined Fork Road bonfire, and then into the foggy part of the woods. Run up to the tree with the face on it, and keep an eye on the aged feather. If it becomes grayed out by the time you reach the tree, you're being invaded, which is what we want. If it doesn't, run back to the bonfire, rest at it, and try again. When you eventually get invaded, proceed through the area like normal. We'll want to lure the invader all the way to the bottom of the hill that leads to Nazca. Once at the bottom of the hill, use the invader to set up parry walk, then start proceeding up the hill, building up speed along the way. At the fog gate, run into the bricks at the right side to build up a bit more speed, then angle your character to be facing the bricks closest to the fog gate and enter it. If done right, we'll slide all the way through the boss room and out of the fog gate on the other side. In case you were wondering, the victory achieved message doesn't mean we killed Nazca. It's just a side effect of entering a boss room with a boss fight stored. Nazca is still alive and well. Make your way to the bonfire in Brightstone Cove, run up to the first boulder trap to trigger it, and then back to the bonfire. This will cause the first enemy to respawn, but not the boulder. We're going to set up parry walk on this enemy to skip the Prowling Magus boss fight. We'll need to be careful where we walk here, as walking over certain areas seems to deload the enemy we used to parry walk, which will cause us to plummet to our death. After finding a safe path through, just run into the rock wall to lower yourself down to a height where you'll survive the drop. This conveniently puts us right next to a bonfire. From here, we'll want to make our way down to the next bonfire for convenience purposes. You may have to deal with some enemies. After resting at the bonfire, we'll want to light our torch at it. The spiders here are scared of fire, so it makes this area significantly easier to get through. With the power of the torch, there's not much danger on the way to Freja, so head straight there. The torch also makes the boss fight very easy, since the spiders won't bother us while we're dealing with Freja. The strategy here is pretty simple. Bait out an attack from one head, then run around and hit the other. Defeating Freja will net us a good chunk of souls, and bring us very close to the end of this journey. Take out the Duke himself for another branch, then return to Majula. Pop the soul of Freja for another 25,000 souls, then dump all of the souls into Dexterity. Return to Brightstone Cove, and use the bonfire ascetic we picked up in the memory to level the area to New Game Plus. Along the way, stop here to grab 3 more chunks and another slab, then take out Guthrie so we can warp out. We can finally get our rapier to plus 10, and we're prepared to fight Freja once more. The fight with Freja this time really won't be much different than last time. Just note that we are on New Game Plus difficulty now, so you will take more damage if you get hit. Defeating Freja this time will give us the old Pale Drake Soul, which is what we need for the Moonlight Greatsword. Return to the Shaded Woods, and free this Lion Warrior using a branch. Then immediately kill him to get the Fang Key. Drop down into the pit, and open the door to free Ornifex, clearing out any enemies in your way. Return to Brightstone once more, clear out the spiders, and trade the old Pale Drake Soul with Ornifex to receive the Moonlight Greatsword. If you want to use the sword right now, head back to Things Betwixt, and use the soul vessel we picked up earlier to respec. And with that, we've accomplished our goal of getting the Moonlight Greatsword with only having killed one boss twice. I hope you found this video helpful or interesting, and I will see you guys in another video.